Good morning, esteemed guests. We are delighted to welcome you all to the two-day international seminar titled Politics of Narratives, Contextualizing Indigeneity and Cultural Anxiety in Literature, organized by Department of English, Midnapur City College. As our institution continues to flourish, it extends its reach towards new horizons aspiring for even greater heights. This seminar stands as a testament to our ongoing journey of excellence.
In this aspect, we are privileged to be joined by some of the most brilliant intellects and forward thinkers of our nation. Their wisdom and expertise are certain to enhance our comprehension and inspire innovative solutions.
I extend a warm welcome to Dr. Sudipta Chakraborty, Principal of Midnapur City College, to join us on stage and grace us with his presence. Welcome, sir, to our gathering. Our students will honor our esteemed guest with a felicitations. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Allow me to extend a warm welcome to our esteemed guest, Professor Madhushmita Puti, Professor, Department of English, Ramadevi Women's University, Odisha. I request her to please come on stage and take her seat. Our students eagerly anticipate the opportunity to felicitate her.
Now also join me in welcoming our distinguished guest, Dr. Shubham Amin, Assistant Professor in the Department of English at Sri Ramakrishna Sharada Vidya Mahapit, West Bengal. I invite him to come forward and take his place on stage. I invite our students to honor him with the tokens of appreciation. Now I would like to extend a warm welcome to Dr. Uttam Kumar Jaina, Associate Professor of English at KD College of Commerce and General Studies. I invite our students to honor him with felicitation. As we extend our warm welcome to our esteemed guest, now we are preparing for the ceremonial lighting of the lamp. The radiant glow of this ritual symbolizes the illumination that will guide the path to success for our conference. It is with utmost respect I invite our honored guests to participate in this momentous occasion. Kindly join us in this honored tradition. We express our sincere gratitude to you, our distinguished guest.
Now, I kindly ask our delegates to commence the ceremonial watering of the plant, symbolizing our commitment to environmental stewardship. Through this gesture, our conference aims to convey a profound message of sustainability. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guest. With this, we formally inaugurate our conference by opening the abstract book. I invite our honored guests to perform this auspicious task. I extend my gratitude for creating the perfect atmosphere for the conference. Now, I kindly ask a distinguished guest to join the audience and take the seats, enriching the gathering with their presence.
Presently, our student Preeti Singho from UG 5th will imbue the conference atmosphere with her elegant dance performance, setting a unique atmosphere for the proceedings. Give her a round of applause.
यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानम् अधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम्।
Thank you, Preeti. Thank you, Preeti. Now, I would also like to welcome Dr. Shudipto Chakraborty, Principal of Midnapur City College, to come on the stage and introduce our college. Sir, please come on the stage.
Honorable Director Sir, he is not present here today due to some important work. Respected dignitaries, esteemed guests, distinguished speakers, faculty members and students. A warm welcome to this 2 days international seminar. It is an honor to address such a distinguished gathering. This seminar is an opportunity to engage in meaningful discussions on the politics of narrative, integrity and cultural concerns which remain significant in today's evolving global landscape. I extended my gratitude to all who have contributed to organize this seminar. Their efforts have been invaluable in bringing together esteemed scholars and researchers. I am also proud to share that Midnapur City College is a home to a dedicated researchers in the research centers entitled Biodiversity and Environmental Studies. These centers has been at the forefront of research. Just a minute. I'm in a stage. Sorry. This center has been the forefront of research addressing critical ecological concerns while contributing to global substantial efforts. Currently, we have 34 PhD scholars actively engaged in research, pursuing the boundaries of knowledge in their respective fields. Furthermore, our institution has taken a significant initiative to inspire and support rural students in pursuing higher education. We firmly believe that education should be accessible to all, and through scholarship, mentorship programs and community outreach, we are striving to bridge the gap and empower students from rural backgrounds to achieve academic excellence. Additionally, I acknowledge with appreciation the substantial financial support received from the Government of India for research and academic excellence across our institution. Department of Biological Sciences, rupees 1 crore 46 lakhs 18,071. Department of Paramedical and Allied Health Sciences, rupees 2 crore 17 lakh 1,900. Department of Pure and Applied Sciences, rupees 42 lakhs 54,335. These grants reinforce our institution's commitment to advancing research and knowledge. Over the next 2 days, we will witness insightful discussions, keynote address and paper presentations. I encourage all participants to engage actively, ask questions and contribute to the academic dialogue. Once again, I thank all speakers, scholars and guests for their valuable presence. I now declare the seminar open and wish all the enriching the experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, let us gracefully shake into our conference agenda. I cordially invite the organizing secretary of the seminar, Dr. Urpita Raj, Assistant Professor of Midnapur City College, Department of English, to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guest.
Good morning everyone. Now it's our privilege to have with us Dr. Sudipta Chakraborty, Principal, Midnapur City College, our esteemed guests, Professor Dr. Madhusmita Poti, Professor, Department of English, Ramadevi Women's University, Odisha, Dr. Shubham Amin, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Sri Ramakrishna Saroda Vidya Mahapita, West Bengal, Dr. Uttam Kumar Jena, Associate Professor, Department of English, KD College of Commerce and General Studies, and everyone present here. It is an honor to welcome you all to the opening of 2 days international seminar on politics of narratives, contextualizing indigeneity and cultural anxiety in literature, organized by the Department of English, Midnapur City College. We are thrilled to have you here with us. Today marks the beginning of an exciting journey where we have the privilege of learning from some of the brightest minds in the fields, and we look forward to an inspiring and insightful discussion ahead. Let's get started. It is now my honor to invite Professor Madhusmita Poti, Professor, Department of English, Ramadevi Women's University, Odisha, to deliver the keynote address. Dr. Madhusmita Poti is Professor of English at Ramadevi Women's University, Bhubaneswar. Besides RDW, she has taught at Ravenshaw University, Kotak, and ITAR under 6O Anusandhan University, Bhubaneswar. Her area of research interest is life writing and has also worked on diasporic writings. She has published articles in national and international journals of repute, published books, and has attended conferences both in India and abroad. She has supervised 12 PhD dissertations and 14 MPhil dissertations. She was the recipient of Fulbright Predoctoral Fellowship and was invited by Purdue University, USA for pursuing her dissertation work. Professor Poti has been the editor of Ravenshaw University of Literary and Cultural Studies and RDW Journal of Humanities and Social Sciences. Under the aegis of OHEPEE, Government of Odisha, and funding from World Bank, she has established Center for Excellence for Translation and Life Writing at her university. Ma'am, please come. This is now over to you.
Nice meeting you. Hope to see you again. हाँ 2 दिन में है. We'll meet. Sure. Which one? This one. Okay, take it. Which is working? This or this? Both. Okay. Esteemed Principal Sir Sudipta Chakravarti, who just left because of his schedule, and distinguished members for this who are attending this seminar, Dr. Jaina and Dr. Amin, dear faculty members of Medinapur City College, and most importantly, the students sitting out here. Today, as you see, the very title of my talk is Configuring the Paradigms of Indigenous Feminism, and I have taken up the case study of a particular Jodia women from an indigenous community. Now, 1970s India witnessed an upsurge in the mobilization of women's movement against class and gender inequality, and this upsurge was more happened in different parts. It also coincided with the rural women movement, and then it was very local in nature because each community had its problem, different kind of problems. Amrita Basu, in her article, The Challenges of Local Feminism, she writes that local women's movement as indigenous feminism, she put this local feminism under indigenous feminism, whereby women became conscious of their roles in improving their lives as well as lives of people of their community. Now, when we talk about indigenous feminism is an intersectional theory and practice of feminism that focuses on indigenous sovereignty and human rights of women in context of indigenous cultural values and practices. Here as it shows a case study of Sumani Jhodia. Sumani Jhodia is a woman from Jhodia community. I'll talk in detail about indigenous femininity in my later slides and also about Sumani Jhodia. But basically why I chose this book, Sumani Jhodia. Sumani, as told in my introduction by Arpita, by the way, Arpita is my student, Rajkumar is my student. I like to thank them for being here in front of me, because it gives me immense pleasure to see you all working so hard and towards success. I established a center under World Bank project, that is Center of Excellence for Translation and Life Writing, and one of the projects that we took up is to translate the transcribed life narrative of Sumani Jhodia. Sumani Jhodia belongs to a tribal community called the Jhodia Poraja community, and she is illiterate. Her work has been transcribed. There is a lot of incoherence in the work, but her narrative is of immense importance to tribal activism or indigenous women activism in Odisha. So this is the original book, Mu Sumani Kohucha. This is in Paraji Bhasya or Koraputi Bhasya, Mu Sumani Kohucha, and this has been translated into English by my center as My Life, My Words, Sumani Jhodia. So that's why I said a case study of Sumani Jhodia. The book has been translated, and I have used whatever whatever parts I have tried to pick up from the book is from this translated work. I am not using the Odia version of it. So the hypothesis that I have built upon is that the lived experiences of indigenous women has not received enough of critical attention. It has not received the recognition it deserves in the context of mainstream feminism. And the second hypothesis is that the livelihoods of the indigenous women, particularly in the case of Odisha, have been severely eroded since the second half of the 20th century. In the last 3 decades, since 1990s, there has been aid from different developmental agencies, and with the help of the developmental agencies like Agragami, they have escaped the culture of silence and are encountering the existing power structures. What are the power structures these indigenous women face? Are like that of gender or patriarchy, authorities, and even the elite. So such collective determine both the agenda and the manner in which activists challenge existing power structure. So that is the hypothesis that I have built up my whole paper on. The next is kind of what is the question there that I am going to address today. As I told you, I have taken up the case study of Sumani Jhodia. The indigenous women of Jhodia tribe, with the help of developmental agencies, have mobilized themselves to fight against some social issues, some major social issues of the community, like alcoholism, domestic violence, right of land, and for forest resources, etc. So when bodies come together in political acts and narrative and political landscape, when they interplay, women becomes conscious of their role in improving their lives and those of the other members of her household as well as community. So the question now is, how does gender perform amid such cultural anxiety? How do they create narratives of resistance, which is basically political in nature? So that is the question that I'll try to find an answer through by reading the story of Sumani Jhodia's life. Next comes what then from the question arises my objective. What is the objective that I want to see? That first is I'll discuss indigenous feminism as distinct from mainstream feminism or the Western feminism, even Indian feminism. So and then go on to analyze how Koraput Jhodia tribe They have broken the culture of silence and cycles of triple subjugation, that is, subjugations are patriarchal, mainstream, and state interventionism. Then I'll also touch upon and try to deliberate upon how, by telling her story, Sumani Jhodia has shaped perceptions about indigenous Jhodia women, influenced policy, and empowered women within her community and beyond. Then I'll try to, another objective is to understand the dynamic of the challenges. These women, these indigenous women have faced challenges, and understand the dynamic of challenges faced by these women and the societal and the political negotiation they have to make within their culture. So this is my objective, that is, these are the points I will touch upon in my talk today. Now, as I said, I have divided my paper into two parts. Like, first of all, at the onset, when I start now, I will discuss indigenous women's activism and introduce the concept of space of resistance, which contribute to the understanding of the lives of individual women activists, both individually as well as collectively. Then I'll move on, and the next section will be talking about the life of Sumani Jhodia, in particular, talk about her struggle against increasing alcoholism in her community, dispossession of their land, and associated forest products. Now, as I just said, my first focus will be on indigenous feminism. Indigenous feminism, which is distinct from mainstream feminism, as I told you, and it is distinct because it centers around communities. It centers around communities mobilized in their act of resilience. It promotes continuity of indigenous custom and tradition, and emphasizes upon recognition of land sovereignty. And they face a lot of challenges, challenges like the patriarchal structure, gender role, lack of representation, poverty, lack of state policies, violence, and individualism. So these the challenges they face are actually rooted in the complex interplay of socio-cultural, economic, and political factors. So indigenous feminists do not consider themselves to be part of they do not consider themselves to be part of the mainstream feminism. The reason is that because they see themselves as individualistic propensities. They see that their individualistic propensities significantly vary from that is the Western or Indian feminism individualistic propensities vary from their, that is, indigenous women's ethnic philosophy of their community. Now, when we come to mainstream feminists and scholars and activists, they have long contended feminism as a political movement and academic practice which originates as a means to address the social issues, social problems of white middle class women. It till date also it remains white. Remains too much, despite all the developments, it's white in its context, despite in the second and the third wave of feminist movement there is a lot of participation of the colored women. Indigenous feminism critiques the essentialist position of white feminism and also that of Indian feminism, and calls for decolonization of the feminist theories and methodologies. It is intersectional in nature as it emerges from the intersection of race, ethnicity, and gender and encapsulates a discussion that arises out of the intricate web of relations. It centers on the problem that indigenous women face in both their community and operates from a position that social justice can be achieved or can be attained only through specific attention to gender. The need to address the problem confronting indigenous women still remains critical as they stem from ongoing colonial practices and at times from the internal dynamics of their own indigenous community. Having said that, I will move on to talk about a little bit theory. I'm not going to load it with theory, but take quotes of 2-3 people and just see that how indigenous feminism needs a different kind of theoretical framework. Coming to this theoretical postulation of the article is Theorizing Adivasi Tribal Feminism. Morton Robinson writes, indigenous women's individual life experiences will differ due to intersecting operations produced under social, political, historical, and material conditions that they share consciously or unconsciously. These conditions and the sets of complex relations that discursively shape indigenous women in their everyday lives are also complicated by their respective cultural, sexual, racial, and class differences. So this, like Morton Robinson's this article has influenced or taken indigenous feminism in a new direction. And of course, I have taken Donna Haraway and Butler's theory, Donna Haraway's situated knowledge and Butler's performativity to I've tried to read them, Haraway and Butler, and have a better understanding of the issues that the indigenous women face, particularly that of Jodia community. Donna Haraway, in Situated Knowledges, all of you might be aware of that work of hers, which is often quoted. That was written in 1991. She emphasizes upon the geographical location and position of the subject in the web of social connections and eradicates non-participation of the female as well as human body and replaces it with a site of action and agency. For women, agency is about how women individually and collectively organize their activity. When these individuals form groups and participate in political acts, they essentially participate in gender roles in new ways and create narratives of resistance that is political in nature. When it comes to indigenous women, they have no choice but to become agents of their own selves and assume roles that would lead to reaffirming their self identity and collective identity. They have to fight for their own survival in an ecosystem which is changing against them, and they do so. And to do so, they're directly involved in political acts that result in the change of their self perception, which extrapolates towards their change in identity. So Donna Haraway, whatever Donna Haraway states in Situated Knowledge, I'll try to apply that to my reading of, in the conclusion part, I'll use that for the reading of Sumane Jodia's My Life, My Words. Judith Butler posits that for women, agency implies social agency. In other words, those demonstrating agency is already publicly identifiable. Further, Butler's notion of performativity seeks to uncover how a woman becomes a subject and how the reconstruction of subjective agency takes place. This she writes in her book Gender Trouble. Her work has been used by the proponents of gender studies as it works on the intersection between gender, sexuality, ethnicity, space, and place. One can trace that such an argument resonates with our way to rethink gendered subjectivity and ability to act through resilience. By referring to women's spaces of resistance and resilience, here in this paper I have made an attempt to showcase how indigenous women's activism is a contextual phenomenon. It is a contextual phenomenon where connection between women and men and the wider social structures are at play. So this is a brief background of the theoretical aspects that I have used in my work. Coming next is the tribes of Odisha. And now I'm moving on to the second section of it, my first part of it, where I had said that I will deal with the theoretical postulations that I have used to study indigenous feminism, and the works of Haraway and Butler can be extrapolated towards understanding of indigenous feminism. Now, when it comes to tribes of Odisha, Odisha has the third highest indigenous population in India. Out of 9.17 of total indigenous population in the country, out of 9.17, 22.8 are in Odisha. And as the record goes, there are 62 tribals. 2011 census, there are 62 scheduled tribes in Odisha. The major ones are here like Paraja, Bodo Paraja, Baranga, Bodo Paraja, Baranga Jhodia Paraja, Chelia Paraja, Jhodo Paraja, Konda Paraja, Paraja, Ponga Paraja, Sodia Paraja. There are many more like that, these groups, but here I have just talked about the Paraja and tribe and the Jhodia associated with it, because I'll go to the problem next. Now, the regions they occupy are Koraput, Kasipur, Jharsuguda, Nabrangapur, Malkangiri, Kalahandi, Raigada, Dhenkanal, Devgarh, etc. Many parts of Odisha they are spread. But the population is, as per the 2011 census, 3,74,628, and the language these people, this group, the language they speak is Parji or Desya. The occupation is like the cultivation, dry and wet, and then they also go for hunting and fishing and gathering forest products, etc. Now, now welcome to this Sumani Jhodia's life narrative. It is a transcribed life narrative. So there is a lot of incoherence in the book, and then she is having not, I won't say illiterate, but not having gone to school, went to school just for 15 days and could not continue because she had, as a small girl, she had to walk for miles and miles. In her village only her father had gone to school and he had completed up to standard 3. So Sumani Jhodia basically is from a Kasipur block of Koraput district. She was married, she is married to Govinda, and her father was the first one to become the ward member of her locality, and that was when she was 10 years old. So in her book you will find she's talking about a lot of things which are or there are a lot of episodes of her exposure to political happenings that of her place, of her village, Rengamauja. In Kasipur, Rengamauja was the village where she used to stay. But Sumani Jhodia's fame lies in the campaign and crusade against sale of liquor in tribal areas, fight for inclusion of Jhodia tribe under scheduled tribe category, advocacy of tribal rights over minor forest products, and opposition of government policies that lease tribal to private companies for industrial projects. So one of the major concerns that affected the life of all tribal women was alcoholism among men. The Jhodia women worked very hard, but whatever little they could save after household expenses passed on to the liquor mafia by their husbands. Women geared themselves against alcohol abuse, and they went to meet the Tehsildar and expressed their concerns for not only liquor but also for other rights like that of land and forest. In her narrative, she writes, she goes and talks to the Tahsildar. We told the demerits of liquor. It is the cause of loss of gold, property, livestock. Liquor also sometimes leads to death of women, as under its influence, fathers beat mothers badly, also fathers beat sons, and sons their father. The income of laborers was 25 rupees as per government regulation, but when women were paid 10 rupees and men were getting 15 rupees. We did never know where the rest of the money went. The highland, the land, if the land is elevated by 30 degree, it is yours. She's telling the Tehsildar. If the land is elevated 30 degrees, it is yours. If it is lower, then it is ours. Why so? Then the question arises, if water, forest, and land belong to the tribals, then why do they take away our property? So why is government taking away all the forest products? If we have the rights, then why we get lease orders, and why are the properties given to men and not to women? So she was very vocal about the concerns which was not specific to her village or to Kasipur. We can see that this is something, these are the concerns of tribal women pan India. She was very articulate, and she could voice the concerns of her community very well and without any intimidation. She goes and talks to the Tahsildar, a girl just who doesn't know how to read and write, goes and talks voices herself, not only her individual concern but that of her community too. She also met and when nothing was done from the office of the Tehsildar, a group of women went and met the then Chief Minister Biju Patnaik. And Biju Patnaik, upon meeting Chief Minister for the first time, the group of Jodia women who went there, they asked the Chief Minister to ban liquor. But Biju Patnaik said, I'm sorry, I cannot ban liquor. Then Sumani very boldly asks him that if you cannot put a ban on anything, then why are you the Chief Minister? And of the state, no matter whether you stop liquor consumption or not, we will carry our campaign forward. Her fearlessness and assertiveness left a lasting impression on the Chief Minister, and he declared that all the 8 women who came to meet him will be his advisors. He tells them that there is a lot of things that we have to do for the tribal people. These 8 women are my advisors. Even the district magistrate will be suspended if they fail to follow the advisor's command. This meeting has been called for the introduction of the ladies to SPs, DSPs and mayors, and the police will support them and all others will support them. So it did get a lot of confidence because of that, and then they started this third the women of Kasipur to mobilize themselves against alcohol, and their efforts successfully reduced the sale as well as consumption of liquor among men. And there is a statistics also present in that concern. And this new found space of activism enabled the women of tribal women or indigenous women of Kasipur to bring about changes in many places. Thus, the rights provided by the Chief Minister and the state to their women and their performativity not only benefited their particular community but indigenous community of her district at large. So by opting for different modes of resistance, these women were able to carve a space for themselves. Somewhere it was within the patriarchal system, somewhere it was through participating in local governments, elsewhere by laying emphasis on forest rights and community rights over forest products, and in other places posing strong opposition against the imposition of extraction based industrialization policies. So their main concern was that privatization and market-based company culture, which would not only lead to loss of livelihood, but also jeopardize their freedom, their safety, and their identity. So it was like these Koraput, as you know, in the western part of Odisha, and these people, the tribal people who usually live in the landlocked areas, and those areas, Koraput and all those western Odisha, it's rich with minerals, and government policy was to let them give the lease to big companies to extract the minerals, to extract the metals, and and because of that the lives of the tribes was impacted. They were not that is why the forests were taken to like forest, you can use only this product of the forest. For centuries immemorial, they were the people of that land. They could use the land, they could use the leaves, they could use the branches, they could cut down the tree for their houses. It was there, the land, the forest was theirs, and they were part of the forest. Forest was part of their life. But now there is all kind of restrictions to which these people had to acclimatize. It was the political interventions were so much. They knew that we are losing everything. Most of them have lost everything. Their village, they were, and they are now coming to cities like Bhubaneswar and work, so staying in slums and doing different kind of works, because they do not get an opportunity to educate, though despite all the provisions for reservation for them. So now here Sumani becomes a symbol of resistance to the attack on all the tribals of this country in general and Odisha in particular. Now, to come to the Jhodia tribe, the population of Jhodia community, of Sumani's community, spread across 85 villages in Kasipur block. 85 villages in Kasipur block. Now, Jhodias were part of Paraja community. When I gave you the names of few communities, tribal communities, few slides earlier, I mentioned only the Paraja communities. There are 62 communities. Now, Jhodia was part of Paraja community, and they were bestowed with the privileges extended to the scheduled tribes in India. However, the Jhodias got a setback when they came to know that their community was not listed in scheduled tribe in the 2001 census. They were not aware of it. They were not at all aware of it. When they went to get their certificates, they found that their name is not there. Till 2001 census, they were included. Now, as he has written, probably it was a mistake by the RI, the revenue inspection officer who was moving around and taking all the data for the census. They did not include Jhodia people of Kasipur, that is people of these 85 villages, as Jhodia, as scheduled tribes. But there were Jhodias in other Kasipur is one district. There are other districts. In other districts, Jhodias were scheduled tribe, but in Kasipur they were not scheduled tribe. It was out of because it was something in the census data, their name was not entered. Now, this is Jhodias. Since 2002 they have been fighting. They are fighting till date, for their scheduled tribes status. They enjoyed the indigenous status, and then all of a sudden it's gone, and they are put under the category of OBC. by the government. The community thinks, Jodia community thinks that it is a planned conspiracy by the state to favor corporate houses and acquire land for industries. As a mark of protest, Jodia Parajas boycotted the 2009 election and also the 2011 census. And and in her, she has devoted one chapter to this, that only Jodias of Kasipur are non-tribal. Less Jodias living in other part of Odisha, other districts of Odisha are tribal. So they raised their forums, they raised their voice in different forums, and she went and met the chief minister, and the chief minister asked him, "So Mani, are you tribal?" Biju Patnaik asked him, "Are you tribal?" She says, I replied, "If I wasn't tribal, how could you keep me as an advisor?" Now, Chief Minister Biju Patnaik had made a part of the advisory committee, Women's Advisory Committee, Tribal Women Advisory Committee. Now he asked, like, "Are you really tribal?" And then she says, "If I was not tribal, how could see the audacity of that women and fearlessness, not audacity exactly, fearlessness of that women." She points out that towards him. Then Chief Minister asked him, "Tell me what," no, sir, not Chief Minister, he asked, "Tell me, what do you eat?" "I am not telling you of my own food habits, but of the entire community. We eat buffaloes, swine, rats, snakes, etc. Had we not been tribals, had we eaten this type of things? Are you saying the truth?" Chief Minister is asking Sumani. She says, "I have eaten, and why I shouldn't eat this? I have eaten buffalo right from the time when I was in my mother's womb. You have put us under the category of non-tribal OBC, isn't it?" As I told him, he wrote a letter to the government, and only due to his writing, we got a caste certificate. We got our caste certificates. Now, because Chief Minister wrote a letter and the caste certificate was given to the women who went to meet him. But what about the rest? There was no permanent solution. Was Jhodias included? They were given individually, they were handed over caste certificate. But Jhodia tribes were not included in the tribal community. So the problem was not resolved permanently, and when others from her community asked for certificate because they had to take admission in schools and all that, they were not given. They decided to refrain from voting, and Sumani Jodia mobilized the movement. They went from villages to villages telling people, wherever Jodia people were there, we should not participate in elections. But then she was called, she along with other women had to go upon call by the district collector. When she reaches there, members from BJP, BJD, Congress, and another two parties, they were all sitting there. And the collector tells her that, "Please go, agree and go to cast your vote, otherwise I will lose my job. If you don't vote, I will have to resign." The collector then started crying, she writes. He said, "I will work for you." We gave our consent, and then election took place, because she thought a collector has been helpful to us in many different ways. Medical help has been extended, our roads have been little better. So when he is crying and telling us participate, we participated in the election. But then still no inclusion in the tribal list. And they went on meeting different people, and this problem flared up. She ends her narrative. While she's ending her narrative, she says, "Can you imagine how being a tribal girl could manage to accomplish all these things?" Her story is a story of decades of struggle of tribal women for their claims. As she begins, she writes at one point that earlier they were too afraid, but now they are able to go and talk. So Sumani's involvement in activism, spearheading different causes, has proximity to Haraway's feminist epistemological theory, situated knowledges, which emerge from a location or context and further generates its own politics through intersection of history, language, gender, and geographical positioning. And also inclusive in it was the values of the person knowing about it. So they raised their voices, but then over here this is like part of the like the scheduled tribes. There was one of the agendas, this is one of the agendas that was there for discussion in the parliament. It went up to the parliament, and I have just emboldened a part of it. The Jodias possess all the criteria. The MP said that Jodias possess all the criteria proposed by Lakur community. They resemble tribal community from the viewpoint of lifestyle, traditional culture, primitive traits, geographical isolation, educational and economic backwardness. Non-inclusion of their name in ST list is depriving them from the benefits provided by the government. So the issue was raised even in the parliament, but of no avail. And then these are certain things that I have taken, like, though I'm not going to read it out. There was in Lok Sabha there was debate over it also, that they should be included in the Sabha. So and even the media was Times of India media. In 2022 also this issue was raised, and it was covered under by the Pioneer covered this news, in Times of India covered this news, and then people of saying that people of Joda community in Raigada district are threatened to boycott the 2024 elections also, unless their demand for tribal status is fulfilled. So each election comes, they are threatening, but that inclusion is not happening, just because they are not able, even despite the fact, even recently before 2024 election they met the political leader Oram, and after elections they went to Delhi to meet the MP Oram Jalan, and he had said, I will help you out. So everyone says we will help you out, but it is not happening for them, and that is leading to an anxiety among them. How many minutes I have? Okay, 10 minutes is more, lot. I'll finish in 5. So now coming to, I hope my message is going through whatever I am telling you all. So, so the forests of Eastern Ghats, which were home to indigenous people since times immemorial, were now were being given by the state government to the non-tribal. Tribals now, or indigenous people now, neither have the right over the forest land nor the forest product. So Sumani and other women of our community met Naveen Patnaik. After Biju Patnaik, they went to meet Naveen Patnaik, questioning the loss of their rights, and upon his suggestion they formed a Palli Sabha or the Gram Sabha. And initially they were very reluctant to start a Palli Sabha, because they considered themselves to be wise. Her confidence and knowledge multiplied. Sumani's knowledge specifically multiplies, because she was sent to other places outside Odisha. She went to Udaipur in Rajasthan to receive training for small scale businesses, like opening grocery store or cloth store. After Rajasthan, she went to other places like Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, and she received training because she was vocal and very assertive in her nature. Certain initiatives were taken by central government and she was sent as a part of it. And inside Odisha also she went to other tribal regions like Kalahandi, Dhenkanal, Sambalpur, Sundargarh, Keonjhar. She met people over there, and attending meetings at different places, she as an indigenous woman became part of indigenous activism at different levels, both within the state and beyond the state. Now this, and when they were, one of the objectives that was there, like uh, there were organizations from which were working towards the development of these non-tribal people, or those who were supposedly become backward. They were working from there for them. When the and with the help, they will receive training from them. With their help, they uh, established Amma Sangathan. Amma Sangathan means our group. It's a federation of tribal groups of Odisha, and it was established in Kasipur, and Sumani Jodia was its president. And and after forming the group, they went to meet the government. They requested the government to give them different kind of jobs, like using forest products and all. And then they said, you first take up training. And then they took up training, like how to make brooms, how to weave carpets. 40 women of the villages, from 8 villages, received the training. So they were empowering themselves, and they took that, and they were given 500 rupees every month for the training, also government initiatives. The women, after having collected some money, they went to the Jilapal and told the Jilapal or the collector that give us permission, we want to establish a setup where we can prepare brooms. But then the Jilapal said, no, I cannot give you that permission to establish, you will be using the forest products and other things that he said. But then there was no deter for this women. They joined hands, and they collected money, whatever they could from amidst themselves, and went and registered their company, Amma Sangathan. They registered it, and with Sumani as the president of it. So from resistance at local level, from going and meeting the political people and asserting herself, she established Amma Sangathan, which is running significantly even today. So today I have tried in this, what the attempt that I have been making till now is reading this transcribed self-narrative of Sumani Jodia to illuminate the various aspects of autobiographical performativity and resilience. These are some of the snapshots. This is the broom industry that they are running, or the women are running. So the moment that I have discussed till now signal the making and the remaking of the making and unmaking, not remaking, unmaking of not only Sumani Jodia, but also that of the whole community. The story of Sumani undermines the myth of autobiographical narrative as self-expressive of autonomous individualism. In the narrative, she offers a monologic performance through which one individual aspires to consolidate a new notion of identity, which is not only individualistic but also collective. The narrative performativity here constitutes interiority or self, that is, interiority or self, which is said to be prior to autobiographical expression, is an effect of autobiographical narration. What Judith Butler says of gender performativity can be redefined in terms of autobiographical performativity. Within, quote, within the inherited discourse of metaphysics of substance, gender proves to be performative, that is, constituting the identity it is purported to be. There is no gender identity behind the expression of gender. The identity is performatively constituted by the very expressions that are said to be its result. The expression of self or interiority are thus engagements with public discourses that inform historically specific modes, contexts, and reception of autobiographical recounting. The study of Sumani's life thus reveals how women activists strategize their gender performativity from their marginalized position and or positions and combine their body space with broader aspect of social change. As a biological and physical entity, her body is a location for speaking and acting on the world. Taking up Sumani Jhodia's life narrative as a case study, uh, we all can get a peep into how men and women's roles and relations are changing both within and across public and private spaces. She writes at the end of her autobiography, "My and Govinda, her husband, thoughts match well, and he always agrees with what I want to do." So she is not empowered only at the community level, but also at a domestic level. And though she spends hours working for Agragami, her household chores are not affected. In my absence, Govinda takes care of the kitchen. So they have moved forward. She is working, she leaves home at 6 and she comes back around 6 in the evening. Especially Agragami, which is established by Achyuta Das. Achyuta Das from Bhubaneswar. He went there, he writes that I went and established Agragami, an NGO, for 5 years. Now it is 35 years and I am still working, and there is still so much to do for the tribal people. Here, as Haraway claims in her Situated Knowledge, the location and position on a web of social connections eliminate passivity of female body and replaces it as a site of action and agency. Thank you.
Gratitude, ma'am. The moment has arrived for the commencement of our lecture sessions. With utmost humility, I invite Professor Shubham Amin, Assistant Professor in the Department of English at Sri Ramakrishna Sharada Vidya Mahapit, West Bengal. This session will be chaired by Professor Madhusmita Poti, a distinguished professor, Department of English, Ramadevi Women's University, Odisha, India.
Dr. Amin, please. Here I have the privilege. Here I have the, sorry.
Sure.
Here I have the privilege of introducing Dr. Shubham Amin. Dr. Shubham Amin is an assistant professor in the Department of English, Sri Ramakrishna Sarada Vidya Mahapitha. He has completed his MA and MPhil from Department of English, University of Calcutta, and obtained PhD from Department of English, Maharaja Sayajirao, University of Baroda, Vadodara. He has published articles in critical anthologies and journals on queer literature, post-colonialism, and Buddhism. His present research interests are archaeology, masculinity studies, history of early medieval Bengal, and Vajrayan Buddhism. Welcome, Dr. Amin, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Good afternoon. And first of all, I would like to extend my sincere thanks and gratitude to the authority and administration of Midnapur City College and the principal, Dr. Sudipta Chakraborty, and also the distinguished faculty members of the Department of English. Especially, I'd like to thank all my colleagues here for their warm hospitality that I received. And of course, I mean, I would like to thank Professor Madhushmita Poti, and it's like an honor to have you chairing my session. So it's really an honor, ma'am. Now, my paper that has been entitled, as I titled it, From Bizarre Caricature to Disruptive Other, Evolution of Queer Characters in Bollywood Cinema. Now, first of all, that this, whenever we look at this queer characters in Bollywood movies, we find there is a strange evolution that from almost non-existence to they have been evolved as other, prominent but other. The identity, the persons who cannot really fit within the framework of the sane and this sanctified family, and also the institution of holy marriage that we are so much acquainted with. Now this, I will read out some sections from the paper and will try to refer, where I have tried to refer to some popular films. And I think all of you are acquainted with the films. You may have seen, may have watched, may have heard of these films. So we'll be talking about that, and we'll try to trace the very aspect of evolution and how this representation of such representation of queer in such films, how they correspond to the shifting paradigms of the gender ideology and this very paradigms of heteronormativity in the Indian popular cultural urban space. Now, the appearance of queer in mainstream Bollywood has never been consistent, but evolved through various forms. From denial and non-acknowledgement, queer has been metamorphosed into non-normative other in the last 75 years. Such metamorphosis parallels the identification, recognition, and categorization of queer in post-colonial urban Indian space. Now, if we talk about this very representation of queer in Bollywood mainstream cinema till 1980s, then we find that at that time, we find that the queer has disappeared from the paradigm of sophisticated urban cultural space in the colonial period. Queer survives in the indigenous cultural space in non-urban India in rituals and customs. And so, the representation of queer in Bollywood parallels this gender-exclusive cultural space in urban India. From 1950 to 1980, queer made occasional appearance in Bollywood period pieces in the form of castrated males. For example, in case of like the historical period drama, like this Mughal-e-Azam and all this, we find this occasional appearance of the queer in the form of castrated males, so part of the essential part of the Mughal harems. So they're more like something unfamiliar, something alienated, and belong to a different space that we are not acquainted with. Something that we know, but we cannot really identify ourselves with. So in those films, queer appears as unfamiliar, insignificant, and merely decorative to enhance and legitimize the exotic setting of the movies based on historical events or characters. Now there is, with the inception of the turbulent 70s and the grand entrance of the hyper-masculine angry young man Amitabh Bachchan, Bollywood has witnessed a paradigmatic shift in its redefinition and celebration of masculinity. The idea of the hero has been redefined to characterize him by his physical strength. We have a hero, a tall, dark, handsome figure, baritone voice, and someone who is very egoistic personality. I mean, ready to fight at all occasions. And he is competent to accomplish difficult, adventurous tasks, and fearless and determined to face unfavorable antagonism and adversaries. The hero resides in an essentially masculine domain, accompanied with male companions only to emerge as the most desirable and preferable partner to women. Such valiant heroes, apart from their hypermasculine traits, demonstrated another curious phenomenon. That is their lifelong bonding with a male companion or best friend or a group of male friends that we come across in many of Amitabh Bachchan films like Satte Pe Satta, the group of the brothers. The hero and his best male friend or close male companions serve as a comrade in arms, not only in adverse situations or their strife with villains, but engage in all forms of mischief, pursuit of love and romance, and quote-unquote masti. Such friendship entails affectionate physical interaction, apparently non-sexual, poos and puff, staying and even sleeping together. Such friendship. In his Epistemology of the Closet and the Between Men, Eve Kopsky-Sedgwick has defined this concept of homosocial desire. That is a recurrent theme in the Victorian, mostly in the high Victorian and the late Victorian fiction as well, where we find that this homosexuality has been substituted with a male bonding between the masculine men, and in order to accomplish some tasks that requires essential exclusion of women. So such bonding that we come across in the Victorian fiction. Now, this particular Victorian strategy of the construction of the exclusive male world that this Sedgwick has talked about, we find an application of that in the 70s Bollywood cinema in a different way. For example, like if we consider the very Indian dimension of friendship. Now, I'd like to how to change that, move like this. Next, this or that. Okay. Sorry, I forgot to change that. Yeah. Now, this very definition of friendship that I would like to refer to, this concept which is illustrated by the Srila Kavi Karnapura in the text Alamkar Kaustubh, a 13th century treatise on love. That is, in this particular text, what we come across that the text talks about the three different forms of friendship. That is, Rati, Priti, Maitri, and Bhav. Now, in that, there are two definitions of this bonding that has been referred. One is that Priti Rati, and another is Maitri Rati. The Priti Rati, that essentially that has included the element of sexuality in that. So it's actually the bonding between the lovers. But there is another dimension of that is called the Maitri Rati, that is non-sexual, mostly an emotional bond, but that has a very close, intimate friendship where even they share everything, this kind of emotional bonding that they have, and where even the affectionate touch, that is not also forbidden. For example, like this kind of affectionate touching and all that we come across in between males, I mean young people in the Indian context. That is not something alien. So that particular concept we find that was also there, and that has been appropriate in the 70s films, where I'd like to refer to this particular film that all of us have watched. that is this iconic scene from Sholay. And here, this very friendship of Jay and Viru that has been celebrated, and that is that is actually this kind of homosocial bonding that Sedgwick has talked about, that has found an iconic representation. And I'd like to refer to that song, that this Ye Dosti Hum Nahi Todenge, where they mention this Khana Pina Saath Hai, Marna Jeena Saath Hai. So that is something, the lifelong bonding. So can we really dissociate that from the very queer dimension that we are talking about? Because Sholay has later been recognized, and there are many discourses concerning the representation of Sholay as having the queer subtext within it. So that is this homosociality. If we look at this Bollywood movies in the 1970s, the apparent homosociality that is there. But this very appearance of queer as a prominent, with its sexual identity, with its difference, that we could not find in the Bollywood movies, almost like from the mainstream cinema. There are occasional appearances, but mainstream cinema has consciously eliminated that element of queer from the cultural scene, because it corresponded to the cultural scene of the urban space that we have been talking about. Now, there is, so what I found, that this queer implications latent in such friendship has been covered under the facade of heterosexism, as in social space, physical counter, touching each other's body and private parts in a gesture of bullying and fun, and even group masturbation, that is something not uncommon in the hostels, are allowed because participants involved in such acts are masculine males only. So this very queer implications of the queer subtext, the queer identity, that is consciously being suppressed because by its over manifestation of heterosexism. That is something that boasting, or this over manifestation, over emphasis on this masculinity. And all these men who feature in such films have been considered as the iconic male representations in Bollywood cinema, like in Sholay, Dharmendra and Amitabh Bachchan. Now, the mainstream Bollywood movies concerning college romance in 1980s and 1990s often present a curious phenomenon. The male protagonists of the movies appear as leaders of the college groups consisting of boys. The group members primarily comprise rowdy boys engaged in unruly behavior, daring adventures, and exhibition of masculinity in hairy chests peeping from the unbuttoned shirts with floral designs and disheveled hair stifled in black or white bandana. The group cares less about studies but excels in sports, dance, and rock music, flaunts cricket and cricket bat, and Spanish guitar simultaneously. However, in such a masculine, hyper-masculine herd of unruly lads, we come across a young man who wears pink shirt and yellow trouser, speaks in a typical feminine tone and manner, fair in complexion and feeble in strength. He is incapable to perform any masculine task and invites laughter, ridicule, and bullying for his effeminate gestures and shrill voice. His conduct and gestures often serve as a comic relief amidst the action-packed plot. Such a character parallels boys and men found in our surroundings, feeble, introvert, effeminate in shape and gesture, inclined to performing arts such as music and dance, reluctant to participate in sports and adventurous activities. They have consistently been subjected to bullying by his alpha male peer group, as in reality, these effeminate males serve as objects to enjoy superiority of the manly men, so in mainstream Bollywood films. Now, there are actually, in those, if we look at these films like 1980s or like 1990s and even early 2000, now we find that these very representation of queer that we come across, quote unquote queer if we call them, this very representation that entails the very appearance which are mostly performative and gestural. The sexuality of the person was not the concern, because the very sexuality did not appear as something which is threat that can unsettle the Victorian structure. So mostly these characters, they appear mostly as marginalized males, caricature of the femininity in appearance and performance, and mostly they serve as comparisons, that why should the women choose the hero amongst the males or those men present in the groups, to enhance the masculinity, to stress, to enhance and increase the masculinity and desirability of the hero. For example, such characters, we find one of the films that I mentioned, that is, not that, yeah. Now, two films I mentioned. One is that I would like to talk about the one that is this Patal Bhairavi. That's a film that was made in 1986. This is something like a film which is fantasy, has so many supernatural things, kings and romance and all these exotic things. Now there is a character which is played by Amjad Khan, I mean ironically. So Amjad Khan played this role of this character Chanchal, who is an effeminate male and who has created disruption in the very process of union between the hero and heroine by abducting the heroine, without understanding its implication, because he wants to get married to that, the heroine. So imagine that this effeminate feminine male is willing to get married, and that's why he is abducting the heroine. But at the end, when the hero has killed the real villain and he rescued the heroine, he has forgiven Chanchal, because he asked for forgiveness and he didn't appear to be a threat to be eliminated. So until this 1990s, this queer as an identity, queer as a gender identity, queerness as sexual orientation did not appear to be threatful. Now this scenario changed with this emergence of the fear and anxiety concerning the AIDS and the epidemic of the sexually transmitted diseases. And when we find that this homosexuality has often appeared as an offshoot of sexually transmitted diseases, and apparently these HIV AIDS are associated with promiscuity, social irresponsibility, debauchery, moral degeneration, disruption, and these homosexuality is conceived as a viable threat to sexual and social health, hygiene, and sanity. Now, we find that in this, in his the History of Sexuality, Volume 1, this Foucault has talked about this very late Victorian strategy of the identification of the sexual other, and to bring them under the state surveillance with its strategy of what Foucault has called medicalization, that they have been branded as these diseased and they need care and surveillance and proper treatment. So we find that this very association of sexuality, association of queer sexuality with a moral dimension, that is an apparent phenomenon that we come across in the 90s, when this very threat of AIDS, fear of AIDS as an epidemic that was looming large in the background. Now in this particular period, what I find that from this late 90s to the early 2000s, till the judgment of Delhi High Court in 2009 decriminalizing homosexuality, we find that there is a representation that queer has gradually been transformed from this marginalized other to this demonized other as something a disruptive, viable threat who can create havoc in the particular structure of the family. Now, I have referred to some of the films which are being made in this period. For example, like this character of Abhijit in Madhur Bhandarkar's Page 3 that was released in 2005. The RJ, that is the Shruti, the character Shruti's boyfriend, quote unquote boyfriend, in Anurag Basu's Life in a Metro. And the middle-aged sexual predator, the poet, in Faisal Saib's Jigyasa that was published in 2006. Life in a Metro was published in 2007. And also this, the sodomite gangster in Ek Chalis Ki Last Local, 2007. So all these, and also another important, that is this very revengeful lesbian character, that is Tania in Karan Razdan's Girlfriend, that was also released in 2004. So mostly the films which have been released between 2001 to 2009, they represent this homosexuality as something like a demonic threat, as something that cannot be trusted. All these characters, I mean, for example, in Page 3 by Madhur Bhandarkar, the gay makeup artist Avijit functions as a tempter who seduces Tarun, the rising model and boyfriend of Madhavi, to be engaged in sexual act with him. The discovery of sexual encounter between Tarun and Avijit by Madhavi seems to be catastrophic as well as astonishing, because Madhavi has always regarded Avijit as a trustworthy friend whom she has saved from from humiliations on several occasions. And a similar catastrophic discovery features in the scene in Life in a Metro where Shruti discovers his boss engaged in sexual encounter with his RJ boyfriend. So, and this is also ironical that the boss, he actually mediated the engagement between Shruti and this RJ, that character, Whiskey, which is being who happens to be this Shruti's boyfriend in Life in a Metro. Another example, that is a much later film released in 2013, that is the Bombay Talkies. There is the film Ajeeb Dastan Hai Ye. That is the film that was it's a compendium of 4 short films. And this is Ajeeb Dastan Hai Ye, that is directed by Karan Johar. Now we find this Abhinash, the gay man who seduced Dev, the husband of Gayatri, who was actually a bisexual, who has accepted his sexuality and regarded him as her brother. So all these stories of ingratitude, the stories of betrayal. So remember, this very time those films have been produced, that this petition filed by the Naz Foundation in Delhi High Court that was pending for judgment, and at that time those queer rights organizations, they were raising the very strong demands for the recognition and decriminalization of the same-sex relationship, same-sex intercourse. So at that time, before that particular issue was at the helm, we find there is this very strategy of demonization by this heteronormative structure, and that particular strategy finds a manifestation in the very cinematic narratives which have been made in Bollywood. Now, so another, that is in Girlfriend, that the movie Girlfriend, we find that this tried to create a rupture between Sapna and her boyfriend Rahul, and finally this very elimination of Tania that is, she accidentally died. So this very elimination that symbolizes that for the construction of a sustainable, perfect relationship, perfect marriage, you need to eliminate all these threats. So this demonization and the subsequent elimination of queer from this familial and cultural space, that consists the very third phase of the representation of queer in the Bollywood cinema. Now, in the post decriminalization of the queer sexuality by Delhi High Court, its reaffirmation by the Apex Court of India in 2013, and its again the final judgment by the Constitutional Bench of the Supreme Court of India in 2018 decriminalizing homosexuality, we find that the Bollywood has already shifted and changed its strategy. And this is the last part of my presentation. How many minutes I have? 10 minutes, okay, fine. So now in this last part, we find that there is another shift, that already this sexuality has been, the queer has been accepted. And now what was on demand was this recognition of same-sex marriage. And that faced opposition, and even the last petition was rejected by the Supreme Court. So now in the films which have been made from 2011-12, or rather from 2013-14 to 2024-25, we find that there is another dimension in the representation of queer, that we find that there is this, I'm just summarizing this thing because that's a strategy that find that queer has been regarded, presented in a very sympathetic way. And definitely Bollywood has moved away from stereotyping. The queer males or the lesbians are no longer stereotyped. So there are diverse characters appearing in different diverse and different movies. For example, like Aligarh 2015, I Am by Oni 2011, Dear Dad 2016, Badhai Do 2022, Chandigarh Kare Ashiki 2021, Shubh Mangal Zyada Savdhan 2020, Kapoor and Sons 2016, and some popular web series like His Story 2021 and Romil and Jugal 2017, and also the latest one, Murder in Mahim 2024. So we find that there is a diverse representation of queer, and this very stereotyping and stock representations, they have already disappeared. But if we look at the very representation in a different way, then we find that queer has been recognized. But can queer or this same-sex relationship be acceptable, or can queer really fit in this heteronormative family structure? So that is the question, and all these films, in spite of their empathic treatment of queer, they have implicitly or categorically rejected that possibility. For example, like I'll just refer to two things and films, and I'll conclude. There is one thing, that is the movie, that is the web series His Story. In His Story, we get two characters, that is, there is a happy family. The husband is Kunal, his wife Sakshi. They have two sons, and the husband was engaged in a clandestine relationship with Preet, a man, a food blogger, and whom he met in Europe, and they had a sort of relationship at the time. But even after so many years, Kunal and Preet happened to come to the inauguration of the new restaurant by Kunal, and so they met each other and started meeting each other secretly. And inevitably, that particular clandestine secret affair has been exposed to Sakshi, and the family of Kunal, and this marriage was broken. And finally, Preet and Kunal started living together for 6 months, but when and even they somehow agreed to get married. And on the day of marriage that was organized by Sakshi, Preet has decided to leave. He said that when we used to meet secretly, there was a charm. But something when I start living with this man for more than 6 months, I find this relationship suffocating, claustrophobic. I cannot think of translating this relationship into marriage. And in all the films that I referred, I found that if you I think you must have watched, or if you watch all these movies, you find that these characters, they appear in the heteronormative scene with their individuality. But when this comes, whether they can appropriate these institutions or not, they have been branded as misfit. So this is how we find that how this Bollywood mainstream media actually corresponds to the dominant narratives which have been set by heteronormativity, and how it evolved with time, and how, in spite of its acceptance, there is an implicit rejection, a renunciation of the normative sexuality and as other, and therefore to be alienated, to be kept separate. Thank you so much.
Gratitude, sir, for the illuminating inaugural session. As we transition, Ranjit Panda, Associate Professor, Department of English, Guru Ghasidas Vishwavidyalaya, Chhattisgarh, India, who will present the paper through the Google Meet. This session will also be chaired by Professor Madhushmita Pati. I request everyone to stay in the hall and give us some time for the arrangements.
Okay. Those who have any questions, please keep them in your mind. Hello? Yeah. Those who have questions, keep a note of it. After this, we have two speakers. Then at the end, we will take questions. Okay? Note them down so that you don't forget the questions.
Hello, hello. Hello.
Yes. No, 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 no. Thank you. Thank you.
As we As we transition to our second lecture, may I respectfully invite Professor Prosenjit Panda, Associate Professor, Department of English, Guru Ghashidas Vishwavidyalaya, Chhattisgarh, India. He will present the paper through online mode, Google Meet. So I ask everyone to stay in the hall and give us some time for arrangement. And this session will be chaired by Professor Madhushmita Pati.
Is it? Okay, so, okay, should I start this presentation? Am I audible? Okay. Please tell me up because it's very, it's very problematic when somebody gives a lecture on online. He or she cannot understand that whether he is audible or not. So please give some non-verbal communications or some. Fine, thank you. So it's clearly the audible, right? Uh, okay. Thank you. Uh, So it's a good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for giving me this chance to speak something on cultural anxiety and the age of capitalism, uh, a perspective of Zizek's, views on literature and society. Now, on the onset, I actually, convey my apology that I could not be there physically. I tried my level best, but the train is 23 hours late, so I could not have reached there. But still, I do not want to miss this. So thank you so much for giving me this online chance to speak to you. Uh, Now, the topic of this presentations is this cultural anxiety in the age of capitalism. Now, when I see the brochure of this, it was very apt for nowadays, for this, for this the time which we are going after post pandemic. So this cultural anxiety in the age of capitalism, these are two things which cannot be separated nowadays. Now, cultural anxiety and literature and society, and obviously this controlled by the capitalism, which is invisible, just like the Meghnad, which is always invisible, which we cannot understand. Rather, it works as an ideology, which works in a several superstructure, which we do not understand, and that creates a kind of an anxiety. So that's kind of a nutshell of the thing. Probably the main focus of my lecture, that how the cultural anxiety is been created, or probably not created, curated or painted or drawn. So these words are very important. Curated is very important. The cultural anxiety, which is very much artificial, which is as big, which is probably the politics of the capitalism in nowadays. So everybody is having, suffering the cultural anxiety. I mean, there are several issues are also there. I mean, post-colonial literature, they also talk about the cultural anxiety. Diaspora literature talks about the cultural anxiety due to the assimilations, alienations, loss of identity, existence, etc., etc. Ecofeminism, eco-philosophy, they all talk about this cultural anxiety. But the totality, in totality, when you see this, hello, actually আমাকে বললো বলতে সার্ভিস আমি বলতে শুরু করি ওকে oh okay I'm sorry for this I did misunderstood.
A very good afternoon to you. It is indeed a privilege on my part to introduce Dr. Prasanjit Panda. Though he has started his talk a bit, we interrupted him. Like, sorry for that, but we need to tell our audience about you, about the distinguished speaker that we have here. Dr. Prasanjit Panda is an associate professor at Guru Ghasidas Vishwavidyalaya, which is a Central University, Bilaspur. With a specialization in literary theory and diaspora studies, his research explores diverse perspectives within this field. Dr. Panda has a prolific academic record with over 40 published research papers in reputed national and international journals. His dedication to research and teaching reflects a deep commitment to advancing literary scholarship and fostering intellectual growth among students. Dr. Panda continues to make significant contribution to contemporary literary discourse, enriching both the classroom and the broader academic community. Welcome, Dr. Panda. You may continue from where you had stopped. I'm just muting myself. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the introductions. I'm so sorry that actually I didn't understand, the thing. I'm so sorry. My apology to you, ma'am. And it's my privilege to, to say that even the virtual stage with you, ma'am. Thank you so much for giving me this chance. With your permission, I am again resuming my lecture on this, on the cultural anxiety. So, what we are calling this, this cultural anxiety, which we can find in diaspora literature, in post-colonial literature, in the eco-criticism, even in the post-humanism, the post-humanist literature, the AI, the technology. There are several features are there, several issues are there, which creates a cultural anxiety, and this is inescapable. We cannot escape from this. This is inescapable, the condition. So we cannot come out of this. Now, what I mean to tell you that there are some other things are also there, which is also responsible for this cultural anxiety, and that is the capitalism. Now, when I talk about the capitalism, it's not about the haves and haves not. These are all cliche. It's all become cliche. It is there already. It will be there. But when I talk about this cultural anxiety in the age of global capitalism, which actually shapes the individual consciousness and social interactions and obviously artistic expression. Now, this is the very important thing. Now, as Walter Benjamin actually says that that aura of an aesthetic, aura of an art has already lost. There is nothing to be called that the art has got an aura, because the reproduction, and when there is a reproductions, there is an ideology. The ideology comes into the play, because that aura actually lost. So the artistic expression, the global, the social interactions, the individual consciousness, these are all controlled by the global capitalism, which is invisible, which is working everywhere. Now, how this works? Obviously, they create a kind of a culture. They create a kind of a culture that is obviously the Raymond Williams, the dominating culture. It's dominating in how that it actually works in people actually, it actually works through the ideology. There are several ideologies are there, and there's a very, it's very funny thing that this ideology they creates to hegemonize the thing. They hegemonize people and also hegemonize the other culture, and then they get the consent from them. They are being interpalated, so they get the consent from them, and obviously they will be following that dominant culture. And without understanding, they will be part of this dominant culture, and one day they will be feeling this cultural anxiety when they realize that, oh my god, this dominating culture is not mine. So they were suffering from the cultural anxiety. But again, they cannot come out of that. They are in a loop. They will always be there. So, wonderful critic is there, Slavoj Žižek. He says that this global capitalism, it actually, how it's sustaining in the society by fostering discontent while simultaneously positioning itself as not only a viable means of achieving the fulfillment or obviously the happiness. So the paradox of contemporary existence lies in the perpetual pursuit of happiness through the capitalist structure. Now, this capitalist structure, there are many. You can find many. What are they? Consumerism, digital engagement, and self-optimizations. While these are the very mechanism ensure that genuine satisfactions are merely illusion. So what happened then? Then one who is under the dominating structure of a capitalism, they are taking care of, or they are following the different kind of capitalist structure. As for example, consumerism, as for example, social media, as for example, some other virtual platforms, only by thinking that I can find the happiness from this. And what the capitalists are actually doing, to find out the happiness, they have to buy the happiness. Why they will buy? Now, obviously, they will be buying from the platforms, and so your money will go again to the pockets of the capitalism. So when you realize, it will be too late. So again, you will be finding or suffering from the cultural anxiety. So this cultural anxiety is perennial. Now the age, you cannot understand, you cannot address these issues with solution that no, I should not be in the dominating structure. Because what we are doing, what you are doing, everybody in the audience, they all are having the phones, they all are having the WhatsApp, they all are having the Twitter and the Instagram and the Facebook. We cannot, we are finding the happiness from them. So this, so we get the happiness from, through the capitalist structure. So the contemporary narratives and the literature captures this fragmentation of the identity. Because the identity which we are getting is the identity is very fractured and obviously is fragmented, and obviously it's created by the capitalist. So it is not at all giving you a total self. So your subject is controlled by the capitalist manifestation, the capitalist ideology. You are obviously a hegemonized object. So you cannot come out of that hegemony. You are always in the maze runner. You cannot come out of the loop. Fine. So the cultural anxiety is very much natural fact. So I'm the part of the cultural anxiety. So you will be. That is the way out. Since you cannot deny the time and the domination of the capitalism in different forms. So it's coming from the haves and the have-nots, and it's actually working now in something like, as I told you, the invisible the capitalism. That's called globalized capitalism. Now we'll be taking some of the novels because we don't have that much time, but we will take at least one novel, Severance by LIV, where I will tell you that how this work actually exposed capitalism's ability to manufacture illusion of freedom while reinforcing control, creating characters who struggle with the contradiction with their existence. So by examining this literary depiction, as for example, your brochure says that the politics of narrative. So we will be through the politics of narratives, we can understand. Obviously, we'll be taking the help of Zizek, how capitalism not only generates cultural anxiety but also weaponizes. It uses to sustain an ideological dominance, and which has become very much evident in the current scenario. So they are using these two things. One is a cultural anxiety, and also it actually works as a weaponize. So the capitalism gives you the cultural anxiety, and also they are using it as a weapon to to establish or addresses the domination of the capitalism. And this is very important factor for our life and our day-to-day, the, the way of presentation and way of understanding our life. This is the capitalist system. So the central tenet of Zizek's critique is the concept of the superego injunction to enjoy. So this is the core, superego injunction to enjoy, which actually helps individual into an endless pursuit of happiness and fulfillment. But the question is that, have you got, or have anybody, or has anybody get the happiness or the fulfillment? That is my question. Probably not. They are always in a loop. So the capitalism positions itself as the ultimate provider of enjoyment, offering commodities, entertainment, and experiences as a means of personal satisfaction. However, this pursuit is intently a very, very paradoxical. The ironical fact is, the more one seeks happiness through the capitalist means, I mean the commodifications, I mean the virtual media, the more he or she alienated and dissatisfied they become. So this cycle is not accidental. I mean, it's not something like that, only one way it's happening. Rather, it is very much structural necessity for capitalism survival. So this cultural anxiety is very much a necessity for the capitalist survival. They need to survive in the society, no? So, the more they try to give this the cultural anxiety to the people, to everybody, to us, the more their chance of survival is increasing. So the capitalism keeps individuals locked in a state of continuous consumption, existential frustration, by ensuring that the object of desire are permanently unattainable. So what you do when you do not get that, you will be having another desire. Okay, fine, we are not getting this one, so we will be getting another one. So your journey for getting the fulfillment, to fulfilling the desire, will not end. And when your desire is not ended or it's not fulfilled, you will be suffering from cultural anxiety, and that anxiety is very, very real. I mean, when you read this post-modern era, and when you read this the Baudrillard, you can also find that the age which we are, it's not the age of truth, it's not the age of institutionalized concept, it's the age of fragmentation, it's the age of it's the age of totally fragmentation, fractured identity, it's the age of even the quasi-truth, it's the age of copy of reality, it's a simulations, it's a simulacra. So where you to find out one desire is very much a kind of a very much ironical, but because you cannot get the desire to be fulfilled. Only capitalist is alluring you that okay, fine, come to us, come to follow the dominant structure, and your desire will be fulfilled. But the moment you come there, your desire again changed, and you actually will not be not be getting that fulfillment, right? So you will be getting an anxiety. So Zizek gives you a wonderful example. So two people are there who are going to the coffee shop. One actually asks for, the two actually ask for a particular coffee, Americano, the coffee. So the waiter actually goes there and see, he finds out that he come out of this from the kitchen and says that I don't have that much that's very specific, the coffee which you wanted, but I can give you an alternative coffee, very tasty, and it's very good. So what you do, what the two friends actually do, they said, okay, fine, we will be taking this one. So what they do, this is an ideology. So they actually they are not getting the fulfillment of that very particular coffee. But what they do, they give the money for another cause for which they not came here, they not ordered. So we are doing the same thing again and again. We are suffering from the cultural anxiety, and we are moving from another cultural anxiety to the another cultural anxiety, because our desire will not be fulfilled at all. Because the desire is so unattainable. Who made it? The capitalists actually made it every time. So this dynamics creates a psychological landscape. They play with the psychology, attempting to escape feelings of inadequacy, immerse themselves in the consumerist contradictions or the distractions. So maybe be it material possessions, digital content, or self-optimization trends. So they are moving from one distraction to the another distraction, one coffee to the another coffee, one desire to the another desire. So we are in a loop. We are not coming out of this, trends. So what we are doing, the more we are moving from one desire to the another, we are alienated ourselves from our real self, and that actually creates a cultural anxiety, and obviously the anxiety, the mental health problems, and so on. So the individual becomes entangled in a web of desires which are never going to be fulfilled, reinforcing their dependence on the capitalist ideology, structure, and which promises unending happiness while simultaneously ensuring its impossibility. Because capitalist knows that. Capitalist is showing you the dreams and also showing you, also stating the fact that the more you follow these dreams which I am giving you, it will never be fulfilled. But we, the fools, will never learn from our mistakes. Rather, we are always searching and searching for those desires, and end with the cultural anxiety. So according to DJ, the capitalism thrives by fabricating contradictions and displacing a structural crisis into personal failures. Now, this is very important for the current generations. Systematic issues like economic instability, unemployment, precarious situation, which obviously we are suffering from today, you can understand, and social inequalities are reframed as individual shortcomings. I mean, when we are not getting jobs and all employment, Zizek says that this is the shortcomings of the system. But these shortcomings actually maneuvered in such a political way, in such a situation, that capitalist society shows us that the shortcomings, is in the candidate's life, in the candidate's psychology. The candidate is having that shortcomings. That's why he is not getting the job, or she is not getting the job. The system is okay. So that is the maneuver, and you are still thinking of this, that okay, fine, I have to work on my shortcomings, and you started taking coaching, you started taking mental health, motivational lectures, you are attending some other lectures. So where is your money going? Your money is going to the capitalist society, the capitalist dominating ideology. So the dominating ideologies is working in a various way, in a various forms. Just like I told you that they are working as a magna, very invisible. So this and this is very much easy to hegemonize the young generation. So for this young generation, this cultural anxiety is very much real, and they cannot come out of that without understanding, without realizing that how the capitalism actually works. So this ideological mystification ensures that dissatisfaction never manifests as a collective resistance, but instead internalized. So nobody is going to resist the systematic failure. Rather, they were internalized. They will be internalizing every shortcomings which the individual feels. The individual is made to believe that their struggles stem from personal inadequacies, personal shortcomings, rather than systematic exploitations. So nobody is going to believe that the system is bad. Everybody is going to believe that, yeah, you have the shortcoming, that's why you failed in the interview. And you have the shortcoming, that's why you didn't get the job. So this is a make-believe, Is it okay? So this is actually creating a kind of a cultural shock or cultural anxiety, and as a result, the solution to anxiety are sought not through the political structure of change, but through the self-improvement industries, pharmaceutical interventions, medical, digital escapism. We need to take care of ourselves, so that's why we go for OTT. So you go for OTT, but you have to buy, right? So where's the money going? Money again is going to the capitalist society. The money is not belonging to you now. So whatever you do, whatever you think, it's all hegemonized ideologically. So the process of ideological, obfuscation is evident in the rise, in the rise of wellness culture, motivational self-help, as I told you, the literature, the gig economy, all of which reframe capitalist-induced anxieties as a problems to be solved through individual efforts rather than a systematic critique. So nobody is going to criticize the system. Rather, people are creating, kind of a anxiety, and obviously there is no way out. Again and again, I'm saying. So when you this ideological, the literature does what? The politics of literature. This is very apt. Is it the literature is doing the politics, or it is the literature is unraveling the politics? I took this very in a systematic way, very democratic way. That I took that okay, fine. I want to re-understand this politics of narratives. The narratives cannot be political, apolitical. Narrative is every narrative is a political, because the aesthetics cannot refrain from being influenced by the political ideologies and all. Nobody, even Shakespeare could not, so we cannot. Our literature cannot. Even Jane Eyre cannot. So even Flaubert cannot. Lane cannot. So even Edward Said cannot. So nobody can be different from the political ideologies. The political framework is still there in every each and every literature. So the literature actually gives you kind of the ideological contradictions which are there. It can expose it by giving some narratives, some the foregrounding things like commodification, existential dread, psychological fragmentation. Contemporary narratives expose the pervasive unease embedded in capitalist societies. So the commodification of human experience and the pervasiveness of alienation in capitalist societies have been recurring themes in contemporary literature. While the works of Etude, Deleuze, Pynchon, Wallace effectively illustrate Zizek's theories, more recent literary texts provide compelling critics of the capitalist-induced anxiety. Now, they are not anti-capitalist. They are only talking about that how the capitalism actually works to create anxiety, and how they make it perennial in the society. How you cannot, even though you try to come out of this loop, but you cannot. So you will be running in the maze. Fine. So you cannot come out of this. So this narrative explores the psychic toll of capitalism and its influence on identity, relationship, perception of reality, and presenting capitalism as an omnipresent, omniscient force that conditions human behavior and emotions. Modern literature often highlights the fragmentation of identity under the capitalism, showing how individuals struggle to reconcile their authentic selves with the demands of consumerist culture. Is it okay? So through the intricate storytelling, the narrative technique has to be changed. Unreliable narrators and metafictional narratives, or the techniques, or probably the historiographic presentations. This novels reveals the anxiety-ridden reality of existence in a world dominated by capitalist, capitalist society, capitalist, you can call it the system and the structure. Many authors illustrate capitalism, praise an emotional vulnerability, transforming personal cries into a marketable experiences. What capitalism doing? They they market everything, they sell everything. So they sell your emotions, they sell your anxiety. So as I told you, a few minutes ago, that the cultural anxiety, sorry, the cultural anxiety they create only to hegemonize you. Fine, you cannot come out, and also they weaponize it. That weaponize how that they tell always, they interpellate always that even though you go for this desire to be fulfilled, but it cannot be. It's unattainable. But the problem is that we don't follow that. We don't deny that, and we are giving our consent. And by giving the consent, we do not have any alternative. Rather, we fall into the prey to the capitalist anxiety, capitalist induced anxiety, and we are in an anxiety. So, Ling Ma's Severance, probably I'll be getting this novel only. So, Ling Ma's Severance, it's published in 2018, a haunting meditation on the nature of work, consumptions, and societal inertia under the late capitalism. I mean, late capitalism, there's this postmodern, the postmodern, Jameson's, the late capitalism, where the capitalism actually, is called a late capitalism in a very political way. This is not probably the time to tell you, all such things. Otherwise, we'll be diverted. So, through the lens of this pandemic narratives, the novel satirizes the unrelenting cycles of labor in capitalist societies, where individuals are reduced to mindless repetition, unable to break free from the ideological structure, ideological structure, and obviously ideological entrapment. I mean, just I'm telling you that which kind of repetition it is. You have all watched the time, the modern times, probably Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times. So where you can find one of the scene is there where Charlie Chaplin is tightening the bolt, and he's only tightening the bolt. He couldn't see anything else. That whether it's a bolt or not, but he was doing again and again, because he cannot think of the another one, because he cannot, because that his thought process has been controlled. His thought process, his self, he cannot understand the binaries. He cannot understand, he cannot come to that very stage where he can see that the signifier and the signified chain. He cannot understand that. His life is very much repetitive. It's very much repetitive. He cannot understand the difference between the two. So the Slavic judges critics of ideology, and obviously we are doing the same thing. We are in a now situation. We are doing the same thing again and again. So the Zizek's critics of the ideology, particularly his notion of ideological entrapment, provides a compelling framework for analyzing this severance, which the novel actually taken, as a reflection of how capitalism erases individuality and renders human existence as a mechanical process. So this novel embodies a Zizekian theory that portraying capitalism as a self-sustaining system that thrives on automation, alienation, suppression of genuine autonomy. So there is no genuine autonomy. The central metaphor of severance is the scene fever. That is a kind of a pandemic actually comes in. Distill the core anxieties of late capitalism. The infected individuals, now if you have not gone through, so I'm just telling the stories, the infected individuals are not turned into the conventional zombies. It's not the zombie, the post-human. But they are instead locked in a repetitive cycle, reenacting their daily routines until they wither away, until they die. So they are working again and again, the same thing. So this striking imagery echoes Zizek's argument that capitalism relies on ideological entrapment, coercing individual into a state of mechanical existence, just like the Charlie Chaplin, where meaningful change become impossible. They cannot have the alternative. They are on this, and that creates a cultural anxiety. So this is how they give this kind of you can call it kind of a you can call it an illusion or hyper reality. So much like Zizek's assertion that capitalism presents itself as an inescapable reality, the feeble characters in Severance embody the futility of breaking free from an economic order that conditions individuals to work, consume, and comply without questioning the agency. So this is the gateway in that very loop. The protagonist, that chain, is emblematic of a modern worker caught in a system that functions regardless of human will. As an employee, of a publishing company that specializes in mass-produced Bibles, Candace, that is the character, epitomize the alienation of the labor. She performs tasks with mechanical efficacy, adhering to corporate expectation, even as the world around her collapses. So see, look at this. She never changes it. She takes all those things which is told by the capitalist, even though the sea is withered away, but she was not changing it. So like, it's a metaphor. So her initial reluctance to leave the new war, despite its increasing dissolution, underscores a deep-seated, indoctrination into capitalist productivity. Her survival hinges not on genuine autonomy, but on her ability to continue fulfilling the role assigned to her by the ecosystem, economic system. So she was not changing, she was not changing anything. Rather, she was again and again doing the same thing, which is told by the capital, or probably ordered by the capitalist society. So she was suffering from that very anxiety, but she doesn't have any coming back. On another argument is that ideology operates precisely through the illusion of choice. I mean, there are several illusions or choices are there, as for example, the happiness. While capitalism purports to offer freedom, I mean, the freedom we take care, the freedom we enjoy is not the freedom of us, or rather it has been also kind of a marketable of freedom they have given us, whether through the career paths, consumer goods, or digital culture. These choices are predetermined within the system's logic. In Severance, the Kenyan's choice appear personal, yet they are dictated by economic and ideological imperatives. Her decision to remain in her job, to document the emptying cities, she was going there and clicking the photographs, and accepting a role in the survivalist group, all stem from an ingrained capitalist rationality that equates identity and productivity. So, she was thinking that it is her choice. No, it is not her choice. The choice is given by the capitalist. So even if now, if you analyze this Zizekian ideology, that we also do not have choice, rather we are given the choice by the capitalist society, which is invisible, which is what, which is because we are hegemonized, and we don't have, we don't understand that how we are hegemonized and how to get away from it. So even the post-apocalyptic world, the groups he joins replicate the same structure of exploitation and labor discipline. As for example, the Bob, who was the survivalist, the leader of the survival group, is also working at just like the capitalist group actually works. He was also authoritarian leader, enforces new mode of capitalist realism, assigning roles, exploitation is world, demanding compliance and meting out the punishment. One who is not complying his order or not abiding his order, he's been killed by shot dead. So it's the same thing. The same thing is repeated. The dominations, the exploitations, the ideology, the hegemony, these are all repeatedly coming one by one. And the capitalists, they also coming through as a dominant culture. They also give an alternative culture. That is, we know that that is the emergent culture. But what does the emergent culture does? Emergent culture actually emerges for the cultural anxiety. That okay, fine, this the dominating culture is giving us a kind of a the dominations, exploitation is happening. So we should give a kind of a street street kind of culture, street culture, or the some of the culture which is very much emergent, which is going against the established culture. But the more or less, when it goes on, this emergent culture also becomes the dominant culture, become the part of the dominant culture, and still the same anxiety that where is my identity, where is my existence, again is under questions. So they will be performing according to the choices given by the dominating culture. So there is no emergent culture as well. So there is no resistance as well of this, of this systematic structure of the capitalism. So the cultural anxiety is inevitable, is the ideological status of us. So mass description of labor is a mindless, the cyclical process aligns to Zizek's analysis of how capitalism reduces human life to economic functionality. The infected characters in Severance illustrate this concept of exaggerated forms, walking the same routes, performing the same domestic tasks, folding clothes, setting dinner tables until their bodies physically disintegrate or wither away. They were doing the same. This mechanization of life recalls a Marxist concept, alienated labor, where workers were estranged from the products of their work, from the process of productions, and obviously, ultimately, from themselves. So, obviously, we know that the Das Kapital. Kendall's trajectory mirrors this phenomenon. They are not having the authority of the production they are producing. So, they don't have the authority. So, in our pre-pandemic life, she operated as an efficient, yet detached, a cog in a corporate machine. Her existence defined by the company's recruitments. So the collapse of the civilizations only reinforces these patterns. So another Zizekian reading in Severance centers on commodity fetishism and the nostalgia. Capitalism fosters to sustain itself. Throughout the novel, the remnants of the pre-pandemic world retain an almost sacred quality. Malls, office buildings, and the personal possessions are imbued with significance. Not because their utility, but because they once were the metaphor of, a kind of a lost sense of the capitalist structure. So they are not to be forgotten. They should not be forgotten at all. So Camden's habit of documenting New York's, emptiness reflects an unconscious attachment to the capitalist continuity, an inability to imagine existence outside its framework. So Zizek argues that capitalism not only sells product, but also conditions individuals to desire, their oppression. So that's another one. The capitalism is oppressing them, and you are also desiring that. So that's another post-colonial, the psychological post-colonial thought. So Zizek argues that capitalism not only sells product, but they also condition or influences human beings to desire the oppression. So the nostalgia that permeates Severance is not just as a material goods, but for the stability of a world governed by labor and the consumption. So even in a world devastated by sin fever, just like the COVID, the survivors are drawn to the role capitalism is sustained not only by its successors, but by its ability to present itself as the only conceivable reality, that this is the only reality you can conceive. So Lingma's Severance serves as a powerful critique of late capitalism, illustrating how economic structure reduces individuals to be repetitive, mechanical existence. Capitalist logic in human consciousness. Obviously, our consciousness has been controlled by the capitalism, the late capitalism, and its superstructures. The Zizek's critics of ideologies, the novel exposes that the deep entrenchment of capitalist logic in human consciousness, even the face of societal collapse, even the society is collapsing, but the capitalist ideology, the capitalist structure is still there, and obviously, I don't know that because it's a pandemic literature, so I don't know how much it will be there, but still it's very much effective in nowadays everywhere that anxiety, that cultural anxiety is creating a kind of a thing. Even the 9/11, there is a you know the cultural anxiety. Even the Donald Trump is deporting the Indians, so there's another diaspora migration, migration exile probably from one country to the another, and another country to the another, and deporting from from Costa Rica to India again coming. So that also creates a the cultural anxiety, and still it is no one can say that this is not a capitalist. This is the best thing is the capitalist. Not the best thing. I mean, it's the worst thing in the capitalist society. But you cannot deny it. No one can deny it. So the severance reveals that breaking free of the capitalist entrapment requires more than mere collapse of its economic structure. It demands of a radical reimagination of the social organization, labor, and human identity. By showcasing the capitalist endurance in even the apocalypse, the novel warns that without conscious resistance and structural transformation, the humanity remains doomed to repeat the same cycles and feverishly working itself into an oblivion. So you cannot come out of this this illusion which the capitalist society actually the pose. So Zizek's notion of hyper reality influenced by the Baudrillard obviously suggests that capitalist ideology construct multiple layers of emotion, the illusions, and that obscure the authentic reality. So you do not have that much the clear eyes to understand that what is the reality. So obviously the cultural anxiety will come to you. So this hyper reality and this constantly shifting, this hyper reality is shifting as the hegemony is shifting from one to the another. It's create the alternative. Who's create the alternative? The capitalist. So the people, the us, the we don't have any other choices. So the choices is given by those hyper real objects. So the copy of reality, that reality, and then again that copy. So there is several copies are there. Is it okay? So we are living in the world of not the reborn but the reboot. We are living in the world of the Mintra. We are living in the world of Amazon and the Flipkart and all, Instagram, Reel, and obviously the Facebook and everything. So these are kind of a superstructure. These are giving you a kind of a solace, kind of an happiness, kind of a fulfillment of happiness, kind of a objective, the kind of a purpose of your life. Who is giving you? The capitalist is giving you. You cannot deny that. So you cannot come out of the loop. So you understand, when the time is the cultural anxiety is sometimes is inevitable force which creates the disillusionment, and it reflects that the capitalism not only fosters illusion but also structure reality in such a way that escaping that becomes very much impossible. So this is all from my side, and thank you so much. I hope that the cultural anxiety and the politics of narrative the lecture can help you to understand, the main focus of this seminar. Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving me this chance. Thank you from my end.
Gratitude, sir, for this enlightening session.
Hello.
Now,
Thank you, Dr. Prasenjit Panda for the talk.
Thank
Now,
you, ma'am.
yeah. Now, is there any questions or somebody's comment?
if you have any query regarding this session, they may ask.
My question is for Subhamamin sir. Sir, you have talked about
He has a question for me. So, shall we take it after this session or?
Sir, I don't think anyone have any query. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prasan.
Thank you,
for
thank you,
being
ma'am.
here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you very
Thank you,
much.
thank you.
Okay, without any further delay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sir, you have talked about medicalization. My question is that a form of biopower?
Not really. I mean, the way Foucault has talked about, I mean, he has theorized medicalization more as a strategy of surveillance. Biopower, I don't think so.
The control of the body.
Yeah, of course, control of the body.
Let me quote. Yes. The body imbued with the mechanics of life and serving as the basis of biological processes, propagation, births and mortality, level of health, life expectancy and longevity, with all the conditions that can cause these to vary. Their supervision was effected through an entire series of interventions and regulatory controls, a biopolitics of the population.
Okay, in that sense, I mean, biopower, I didn't understand actually. The way I looked at it is more like a surveillance strategy
From a
for
disciplinary
surveillance.
thought perspective.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Sir, I have another question.
Yeah.
Sir, you said that now the movies are projecting as a disruptive other. So I will mention two movies. One is Onir's I Am, and another is not a movie, Murder in Mahim. Both shows that police brutality, like pre-decriminalization of 377. What happened that police used to take money and give